What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it's finally happened. The long-awaited release date for Hollow Knight Silksong is in. And in fact, we got a bunch of backstory as to, well, what took them so long. And it's not necessarily what a lot of people were expecting. We'll go over all of that here today. Also, we do have an update around the Elden Ring Switch 2 situation where some have called it disastrous. Well, now we have footage that's just kind of gotten out there, at least giving us some kind of a look at the game in action. And we may have the location for the next Forza Horizon game, and it's one that people have been calling for quite some time. So all that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Trails in the Sky first chapter, as we do have a demo and a Switch 2 version for it. This we can see over on Gamatsu, where they say Falcom will release a Switch 2 version of Trails in the Sky first chapter alongside its previously announced versions, and a prologue demo is available for now for the PS5, the Switch, Japan only for now it says, and PC through Steam. The opening movie was also released. They have an entire trailer for that. Now, the Switch 2 version, as you would expect, offers higher resolution and frame rate, as well as faster load times compared to the Switch 1 version, and it's just digital only. Now, how this can work is, if you buy the Switch version, you can buy the upgrade pack for $1 or 150 yen, and then you get the Switch 2 version. It seems weird to me that they even bother to charge $1 for it. I don't know what the deal is there for that, but there you go. We have a demo you can check out now that kind of gets you started, and your save data will be carried over to the full version of the game, so you'll be able to at least get an early head start on it now and check out the game, or try it for the first time, which is what I intend to do. So I already downloaded the demo, and I'll jump into it when I get a chance, because again, right now, there's a lot of stuff happening. Also, we have that Mortal Kombat Legacy collection coming up, and now we know of 2 other games that are being added to the collection, along with a new trailer for Gamescom. You can see some of it here. Now, Digital Eclipse has officially confirmed the 2 other games going in. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection includes Mortal Kombat Mythology, Sub-Zero, and Mortal Kombat Special Forces. Wow, I wasn't expecting Special Forces. I mean, we had talked about the idea of Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero going in, and according to Digital Eclipse, it might be a bit more forgiving since you can do the rewind feature, and yes, in a game like Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, you're probably going to be using that quite a bit. They also have on-screen move lists and a trainer mode to help players learn various combos and fatalities. That's actually pretty cool. The players can also expect reduced load times in each game. I don't know how much I'm going to be playing Special Forces or Mythology Sub-Zero, but, you know, I will fire both of them up. Definitely Mythology is just kind of as that nostalgia trip, because I do remember renting that game way back in the day, and it just wasn't very good, so you kind of take it back the Sunday night, begrudgingly, like I just wasted that whole weekend. But looking back on it now, you know, it was one of those nostalgic retro experiences that I guess I'll go through again when the collection comes out here soon. Oh, and speaking of soon, we do have Gears of War Reloaded releasing next week. And we do have at least a shot of the box art that's raising some concerns, because you can see it here. This was posted by Does It Play? And at the bottom of that Gears of War Reloaded cover, it says requires content download. There is the other box art going around right now, the NTSC version North America, that does not have that same language at the bottom for requiring content download. So people are kind of confused as to how this is going to work exactly. Gears of War Reloaded does come out to more than 50 gigabytes, so they would have to use one of the ultra high def or dual layer, whatever, Blu-rays to do 100 gigabytes. And for that, it should fit, but we've seen Microsoft also just opt to not use those in the past and do the thing like Indiana Jones where you have to download a large majority of the game. So I'm not really sure what the deal is here with Gears of War Reloaded, because that was just part of the fun factor here for people. It's like, oh, here's Gears of War on a PS5 disc with the PS5 cover art. I have to get it physically. Well, now it's like, how much of it do you actually have physically? So I guess we'll see when it releases next week. Just kind of hang out for a bit and we'll see how things go, as I'm sure many accounts on places like Twitter X will keep us informed. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Hollow Knight Silksong, as we did get the official release date and a bunch of new information for it, as well as a new trailer. And it turns out it is coming out sooner than we thought. In fact, it's out in 2 weeks. Yeah, so the game is releasing September 4th, and it's going to just about all platforms: PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, Switch, Switch 2, and PC. I think it's even going to Mac OS and Linux. So, I mean, they cast a wide net here, although it has been in development for quite some time, 6 or 7 years now. So you go back 6 or 7 years, we were still dealing with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, so yeah, they kind of have to cover all of their bases here. Of course, it is going to Game Pass day one, and with some of the gameplay and the footage that's gotten out there for even the Switch 2 version, it does appear it'll have the 120 hertz mode enabled for it, which is great for a platformer like this that you want more precise control over. Having that higher refresh rate will only help to make the controls feel more responsive. So, I mean, right here, all good all the way around, right? So far, so good. Now, the question has been, what's taken so long? Well, Jason Schreier did have an entire report over on Bloomberg, just with the entire backstory and the development, and a lot of people were expecting there to be serious problems behind the scenes. It was chaotic. They didn't know if they even get this game out there. Actually, none of that's correct. It turns out they just decided to work on the game for a while. Like, that was kind of it. They really didn't have a lot of pressure to put the game out because Team Cherry is made up of a core of 3 people, and it turns out Hollow Knight sold, at that time, 2.8 million copies, but after the announcement of Hollow Knight Silksong and a lot of the buzz around it, they sold an additional, get this, 12 million copies for a total of 15 million copies. So, yeah, if you're a team of 3 people at Team Cherry and you have, say, that kind of financial backing coming in just from selling Hollow Knight, you don't really have external pressure of the big publishers coming in. It's like, you got to get this game out now. That's it. No, they just kind of hung out, took their time, and they did say that the scope continued to expand. So rather than, as originally planned, it being DLC, it kind of turned into its own thing, which we had already heard that before. But it turns out we have like 40 bosses now in Silksong and all kinds of other stuff. So this seems like it's going to be a pretty big game. And they also mentioned they have ambitious plans for post-launch content. So I'm thinking I get DLC, or who knows, maybe that DLC turns into its own full game again. I mean, it really is as simple as they're made out of 3, their Team Cherry is made up of 3 people, and games just take a while to make, and they didn't have anyone really in their ear telling them to get the game out. So as scope continued to expand, they just got more creative and continued to add on to the game. Now, here's something that I saw and I said, okay, I don't know how it's going to go over. Review codes won't be sent out ahead of release. So it's just going to come out on September 4th without any kind of reviews. And Team Cherry says they don't want to provide codes to press before, say, backers or pre-order customers. And look, there are many people right now online who have already decided, I'm getting this, or I'm going to download it on Game Pass. But that's a whole thing, and people have brought up red flags and stuff around the idea of trying to avoid the review score getting out there before the game does. And we have seen that in the past. In this case, though, it does seem like they're playing into what people that enjoyed Hollow Knight liked with this game as well, just much more. So I think for the most part, people are pretty confident in this release, even without reviews. It still would have been nice just to have that there, to be like, oh yeah, here's what'll probably end up being a pretty good review score, I assume, just to kind of back it up on release. But there's so much buzz, so much interest, and it's been such a long saga for this game. I think people are already kind of bought in, and they're just hanging out waiting now for September 4th. So I'll be checking it out when it releases. Again, there's just a lot. It's coming out like the day before Chronos, which is a big one I want to check out. I mean, it's going to be less than a week removed from Metal Gear Solid Delta and then Lost Soul aside. So I'll just have games popping up all over the place. But I would like to check out Hollow Knight Silksong on release, and I indeed will be doing that when it comes out here 2 weeks. So exciting stuff. Finally got that release date. We can get Hollow Knight Silksong out, and then we can move on to everyone asking for something else when the next big event like a State of Play or Direct pops up. Next up, let's talk about 2K and Bioshock. As we know, Bioshock has been kind of going through it, as in there were 2 projects that were in development that have really struggled, with one of them being shelved, that being the Bioshock 1 remake. That is an absolute travesty that they are not going to be remaking that right now, because I think that is a game that will be really cool to see brought up to modern visuals and presentation, even controls and gameplay to a degree, just for a new audience. But there's also that big new Bioshock game that has been, again, going through it behind the scenes. So much so that it seems like there's reorganization happening behind the scenes, and even bringing in someone that's called the Closer in development circles right now. So first, though, let's start here. This over on Bloomberg, where they say Cloud Chamber, which is offices in Nevada, California, and Montreal, cut more than 80 jobs Tuesday as part of a reorganization. Said the people who asked not to be identified because they weren't authorized to speak publicly. The studio had about 250 employees before the cuts. The game will also be delayed from a previously planned release in late 2026 or early 2027, said the people. And you know how I see this is you might as well start developing now for the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox, because if you're delaying into 2029 or 2030, the new systems will just be out there at that time. And that is Rod Ferguson. We can see over on his Twitter X account saying, some of you have guessed it, I'm returning to 2K to lead a series that means a lot to me as the new head of the Bioshock franchise. I'll be heading up Cloud Chamber and overseeing development of the next Bioshock game, along with franchise extensions like the in-development Netflix movie. While I'm excited to get started in the coming weeks, I recognize the studio restructuring is a difficult time for the team. I'm deeply grateful for the work done so far, and I'm committed to building a Bioshock game we'll be proud of and that our players will love. For now, the fire hose of onboarding awaits, and I look forward to sharing more when I can. So, that's just how bad a state Bioshock, this game, was in before that. Like, they had to restructure by laying off a good chunk of the studio, now bringing in someone else to lead the title forward here, and them having to delay it out, I think, several years. The one good thing about this is Take-Two indeed is not giving up on Bioshock, and that's what you would, I feel like, almost expect then, is if anything, they would go, okay, we will do that Bioshock 1 remake, and then we'll kind of shelve the franchise for a while after that, because they just can't seem to get it right. And look, Bioshock has a lot to live up to. It really, really does. I know Infinite didn't necessarily hit like Bioshock 1 or even 2, but there's still a lot of people who think back to Bioshock 1 and sort of the impact that it had, not only in the industry, but just in general for like your gaming experiences. That's up there in like the top 10, maybe even top 5 for most people. So I hope they can regroup and figure out Bioshock, because I would like to see it make that triumphant return. Now, though, probably later in, 2028 would probably be the earliest. I'm thinking, though, more realistically, 2029 or 2030. Next up, let's talk about Elden Ring on the Switch 2, which is making the rounds because of its poor performance that's been noted so far at Gamescom. And this has mostly been in handheld mode. However, some have commented on docked mode still being kind of rough. Well, we have some footage, because if you remember when we went over the stories, no one was able to record footage of Elden Ring, and it makes sense if the handheld mode was that bad. But at the Fan Expo that's happening right now, I believe up in Canada, it appears we have some docked footage. You can see it here. This was making the rounds and posted over on MD. This is a YouTube account here. And it shows 15 minutes of footage as they kind of start out, run out into the world. And, I'm watching this. The thing with off-screen footage, it's pretty difficult still to kind of get a grasp on it, unless you record, say, at 60 frames per second for the main camera. Because I know there are many people who record and have it on default settings as recording at like 24 frames, so it can look a bit weird when you're then looking at a TV. I did notice there was still some juddering that was happening here and there, and at times it looked like it was kind of slowing down, but the slowdown part could be, again, the off-screen camera footage. So at least from what I'm seeing, though, in this off-screen footage, it doesn't look like what was being described, to where it was dropping into the teens. Like, some were saying it was like less than 20 FPS in some instances here. So this is at least positive for the docked mode. The only issue I have is the handheld mode is arguably more important than docked mode for the Switch 2, because that's what sets it apart from something like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series. If you're going to play it primarily docked, you might as well grab it on the PS5 for cheaper if you have a PS5. Now, if you just have a Switch 2, that's just kind of how it is. But the handheld mode is kind of that aha moment of, wow, Elden Ring, playing portably and playing well. So that's the thing that I'm still concerned about, and if they can, that being FromSoft and Bandai Namco, if they can get that working to an acceptable level, which to me, for the Switch 2, should be 30 FPS minimum in portable mode, And maybe even like, I thought a 40 FPS mode would have been good to then use kind of that 120 hertz display to try to help out a bit there. It's just, there is a lot that goes into Elden Ring when you actually play it. And the worst case scenario is that the hardware itself is the limiting factor and makes the gameplay experience just bad. So here's hoping they can work that out. We're still waiting for a release date. And now after seeing the footage doc, but then also the description around how it's running handheld mode, I wouldn't be shocked if it ends up coming out next year at this point, and they have to maybe push it out a bit internally into next year just to make sure they get it right, which you may as well. I mean, if it comes out and they're like, oh, we'll fix it later and it's a whole thing, that's just going to leave a really poor first impression. I know it's years and years old now with Elden Ring, but it's still one of those top tier experiences just in gaming overall, so you'll want to try to get it right at release. But we'll keep an eye out for any of these other events and see if we can find some gameplay footage, even off screen of course, for it in handheld mode, because that's still the one I'm really curious about. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Forza Horizon 6, because it's been a while since Forza Horizon 5, so we figure we are coming up on the next installment for the wildly popular racing game for Microsoft, and people have been throwing out different locations, but the big one a lot of people want to see is Japan. And well, based on a now deleted post online, that might be the case here. They may be going to Japan with Forza Horizon 6. We can see this over on Push Square, saying, according to a now deleted Instagram post from car import company Colton Classic, a member of the Forza Horizon team visited them to take pictures of K vehicles for the next game. This kind of car is generally manufactured by Honda, Suzuki, and others, is native to Japan. And I mean, it's a big thing in sort of the car culture there in Japan. And this is the quote. They said, "We have Cody here from Forza Horizon Official, shooting cars for the next installation in the series. As there are no late model K cars in America, he has flown out from the States to use our cars as the basis for their digital versions." So that has fueled the idea that Forza Horizon 6 will be set in Japan. The only thing about that is, I mean, this post recently popped up. If they're taking pictures now for images in Forza Horizon 6 for these different cars, you feel like that would have been done a while ago, and I'm wondering if this would be for DLC that would be down the road. So, hey, maybe it's DLC that would then be added into a Forza Horizon 6 that takes place in Japan, or the setting is elsewhere, and this is just kind of a DLC pack that's just based on like car culture from Japan. It really is hard to say, but it would be so interesting just to see Forza Horizon 6 take place in Japan, just either in the countryside, and then also being able to drive into some of the different large cities and stuff. It'd be really cool. And then, of course, like kind of the tuner culture there in Japan, it would make it feel a lot different than just about any of the other previous entries, and I think it would make a ton of sense if they can pull it off. I know there's been discussion, I know RGT was telling me about it in one of the podcasts, that there's a whole thing around the brands and how they view kind of racing and at times reckless driving in these games when then being attached to their brand. I'm not really sure how all that works necessarily behind the scenes, but I would like to think they can get it worked out, because there's just, to be honest, there's too much money that's on the table right now for the Forza Horizon to make the trip to a setting like that. So we'll keep an eye out, because I think next year is when we'll see Forza Horizon 6, and I'm really hoping that they have a lot to talk about, which includes them going to Japan. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you picking up Hollow Knight Silksong? 29%. Yes, they're buying it ASAP. 8% say that they are playing on Game Pass. There we go. We have 37% that are basically playing it day one. 29% say maybe later when there's a sale. And look, Hollow Knight went on sale a lot, so you might be thinking, I'll grab when it's $10 or less or something. And then 34% are not interested. So, that's not bad. What's that? 66% are interested in checking out the game at some point. I saw many people in the comments saying, I'm waiting for the physical copy. And yeah, okay, that makes sense as well. It is a game to kind of get physically and have it there in the collection, even if it would just be more expensive than it digitally. I think Hollow Knight fans definitely, but then also just collectors in general, don't mind paying the extra amount, whether it's all on a cartridge. I mean, that seems like a game that needs to be on the Switch 2 cartridge, right? Even if it's 50 or 60 bucks. Like we see the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, that's just more money for that cartridge. I think people for Hollow Knight Silksong, just based on what I've seen over several years now, would pay the extra 10 or 20 bucks to have it all on a cartridge, or just even on a disc, right? Just have that for the collection. So I get that sentiment as well. But at this point, I'm curious. I gotta see this game after 6 or 7 years now with Team Cherry putting a lot of work into it to see what they came up with. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from AJT, who says, Valve needs to make Half-Life 3. Okay, this is kind of funny because part of all this data mining that's been going on as we're hearing about this Valve console, the other thing that keeps coming up, I know it's going to sound crazy, is Half-Life 3. It's still, we've already talked about here a couple of times now in Newswave. It's still being discussed. It's still popping up with like testing that's happening. And that keeps evolving more and more. And I don't know if they're going to announce a Half-Life 3 next to their console, but what a way to sell your console. If you go, hey, we have a new little console, PC console, that's cheaper than just about all these pre-builds. It looks like a little system that can go under your TV in your entertainment center. And then also, we have Half-Life 3 coming out next to it, and it's going to be like Steam console verified or whatever, be ready to go. That might move some hardware. I mean, surely they'll sell software because a lot of the people with PCs will buy Half-Life 3, but there might be some people go, maybe it is worth buying this Valve console for the sales and deals that are on Steam, but also for Half-Life 3. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you wanted to listen to the latest episode of Click R3 where Ryan and myself just recap all the stuff that's happened with PlayStation the last couple of weeks, and it's quite a bit. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.